Okay, so everybody has the presentation there, and unfortunately we can't see it on the screen right now, but Brennan's working on it. But before we get into that, I'd like to thank the Tai Chi Club for giving us this space this morning because we didn't actually book the hall. I didn't think of it when we came back. And so we called John, Kathy called John, and he graciously gave us this time slot. So first I wanted to thank them. Second, I wanted to thank all the staff for the setup here of getting everything ready because it's like any family gathering. You show up and you think everything's perfect. It's all set. You don't see the behind the work scene. So I wanted to thank staff for that. Oh, that was a good owl. Okay, so go through the presentation now. So what is being presented to council right now is a 9% levy increase. Oh, sorry, Brendan can't see.
That's okay.
Maybe before you go any further, what's the feeling about 9%? I know it makes me feel sick to my stomach, but am I seeing? Go ahead, Duncan.
I 100% agree with you, Madam Mayor. I think 9% is way too high.
Okay. Nikki's nodding. Is everybody feeling that 9% is not where we want to end? Okay, so going in with that, we need to make some really tough decisions about what we can do, where we get the money to do what it is we want to do. And we've got to get down to something. I'm guessing 5 to 6 would be palatable to folks, but certainly 9 would be devastating to some people. All right, Michael, now that you know we have to cut more than what we've started with, take it away.
Yeah, so we'll have to cut about $500,000. So I don't think it's a story that council is going to want to hear, but it's going to be there. And then, as you said, Madam Mayor, we'll have to make some very tough decisions. So the draft operating budget is increasing by 200 and sorry, now that I have access to this. Okay, cancel. There we go. So your draft operating budget is at 3.4% now as an increase, and the capital budget is at 41%. Again, thinking a 1% levy increase is 140,000, then we're going to have to go down 560,000 to get to a 5% levy increase, which I can agree is more palatable for the taxpayer. We're all taxpayers. It's just at a cost and potentially at a service level cost. So again, just a little bit more detail on the capital budget, that it's up 41%. We've carried over 733,000 worth of projects. And at this moment, in order to get down to the 9%, we're pulling 1.4 million or 5 million from reserves. Just to remind council, there was 255,000 that we were going to use for the tractor brusher in 2024 from the savings of sand and salt. And so the screen is just showing the transfer from reserves and transfer to. Capital projects have already decreased by 484,000, but over the last number of years, we've done more capital projects than in my mind we could afford, and we've done it through loans, we've done it through pulling from reserves, and we've done it through raising of taxes. So stop there. Pass.
Just a question, the 733,000 that we brought over of jobs to do was also raised last year. So it would be in that surplus, right?
It was in the budget. It's not in the surplus because if we didn't spend the money, we didn't pull anything from reserves.
Okay.
So it's a null effect.
Okay.
So this slide is just a high level summary of showing where we started out at 16.5 million. The initial adjustments that council or that department heads did 3 million to bring it down, and then further adjustments to bring it down to 11.1 million. This is a detailed slide of where those savings came from. Obviously, the glaring one is the increased transfer from reserves of 1.47 million. I can run through it, but ultimately, yeah, I mean, we adjusted the acceptance of OMERS by council to half, assuming that some won't. We've updated different figures like Conservation Authority. We've started different positions at a later date or more realistic time frame. We've taken certain projects out, like Medical Center. We're only replacing the final floor. We've reduced some budgeted amounts closer to actuals, like sand and salt. We've taken out the Henderson Road Bridge repair. all to a tune of just under 2.5 million. I just included this slide again, just for people's benefit to see heat and hydro that's only going up by 1.8%. That insurance is up by just under 5%. Just to kind of group the similar expenses together and maybe make it easier to read and understand. So just another slide on the reserves that we are at 4.7 million. We are proposing to take out 1.4 right now without further cuts, which would bring us down to 3.3 million, which is lower than the amount that I had recommended. But I believe that our surplus will be, and I'll get into more detail on that in a minute, will be enough to cover, to bring that back over the 4 million in reserves, but just slightly. Prime example of, I can estimate all I want. 4 o'clock yesterday, I received an email saying that we have $50,000 worth of invoices that didn't come to us in time. And so now I have to incorporate that into 2024. Things can change on a dime. So I would love to, I hate hanging myself on this is what we're going to have. And then 2 seconds later, it changes, right? So I just have to preface my, this is the dollar amount that I think we're going to be at with it can change. So I just wanted to remind that we are paying back the internal loans to fire and public works at about $300,000 a year as well. So that's, again, we'll bring the reserves up, maybe not right away, but overall eventually. This is just a detailed slide on what reserves are where. And I like this one because it puts it to what maybe I think most of us can understand. Public Works is $3.89 per day per household. But I don't think anything about going and getting that $3 coffee. Just a comparison. And so all services cost per household per day is $7.09 in 2025 versus $6.56 in 2024. So a 53 cents per day increase. And I know again that it all adds up. So that's the last slide of the presentation. What I want to go into next is the estimated surplus. I know it's on everybody's mind. I wish we could just take that surplus and put it into reserves to a point. There's always a balance, a line of everything. But I know that we take it into account because we're tight, right? So we take the estimated and we bring it in to still be able to do projects for the public. And I can understand people's perceptions going, okay, I'm going to say that the surplus is going to, I believe, be $1 million or more slightly. And 56% of that, I believe, is non-recurring. So if you take that out, then we're about a 4% variance of what we budgeted, which I don't believe is too much. That reserve or the surplus, I wish could go into the reserves that we could invest to reduce Road 38 cost potentially later down the road or other things. But the main part, there's five reasons, I guess, that we're over. Sand and salt, council already knows. We have cut that down by 100,000, I believe it was. Heating is over, but that 50,000 right now, I don't know if that's heating fuel or if it's gas and whatnot. So that's going to impact either of those lines. Right now, fuel is over. I have to go to my manual notes, even though I did a nice little spreadsheet. Fuel is over budgeted by $200,000. So again, it could be 150 if all that 50 is related to fuel. The third one is bank interest, $150,000. We've taken 2 million and we're investing that in prudent investors. So already I've done a manual calculation to take into account the reduced balance and the reduced rate. But obviously since that time when we met in December, rates have reduced, and are they going to reduce more? Just thinking manually what we got in January, what we have budgeted, I think will be within our $10,000 amount, depending on if rates go down even more. The fourth big gap is supplemental tax revenue. It's not something I want to count on. I hope through the building permits and everything else going on that we're going to have it. But again, it's like counting on that golden egg that may not come.
We didn't get any supplements at the end of the year?
We did. We got 137,000, sorry, of supplemental tax revenue.
Okay.
But I don't want to count on that because it's not a guarantee.
Right.
Like I know I can take the assessment times the tax rate that we give, and I know we have that tax revenue. That $137,000 could offset something like a bridge repair or whatever that's come up that we have no choice but to do it. The fifth one is building revenue is 92,000 over what we budgeted, but we've increased the budget by 80,000. So that's pretty much gone. So again, going back to that 56% in my mind is non-recurring, 46% could be. That 46% could be our lifeline. So if we budget too tight, and I talked to Steve about this yesterday, what is that fine line? So again, looking at sand and salt, 272,000, it's a lot. But so what could he do with 140,000 if we didn't have it over budgeted? Does he need to get sand and salt in this year? There's so many different things that can happen throughout the year that if we make it too tight, it gives us a better chance. I don't want to say I predict, but it will give us a better chance of running into a deficit next year or this year that we will have to pull from reserves and we will go below the 4 million. So it's, again, I'm not saying that leave it at 272. If council feels like we need to drop it, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I just want to urge us to be cautious because if we had a winter like February is going to be, bam, gone. So I think I've said enough.
Questions or comments from folks? Nikki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Michael, what are our loans sitting at right now?
Can I look that up, Councillor? Thank you.
Because I think some of them start to get paid off in 2025.
Yes, I believe there's one. Let's make sure my mic is still on. I believe there's one that gets paid off in 2025. We have the internal loans are 1.1. I'm going to say it's around the just over 2 million mark, but I'll verify that figure.
And our investments are included in our money set aside, our reserves.
Yeah, the investments are money that's not required immediately, and the reserves are money that should not be required immediately, and hence the 4 million that we want to leave in there. And we, again, hope to invest a little bit each year. So if we can increase our reserves, we can increase our investments because that money we shouldn't be needing immediately or within the next 18 months.
But the total is of both. So the 4 million includes what's invested plus
No.
what's in reserves.
The reserves are the 4 million. We're
Okay.
investing 2 million of that.
So in total, we have $6 million.
No.
We have 4 million in reserves. We have 2 million invested.
We have 2 million of that 4 million invested.
Okay, so
That's
so it's
a-
4 million in total.
Yes, I have my
Okay.
interpreter here just in case.
Sorry, there we go. All right. I was hoping it was the other way around. Other questions or comments while Michael's looking that up? Okay.
It's spooling, Councilor McGregor, if you'd like to ask.
Through you, Madam Mayor, how many of the past 10 budget years, how many of them have been deficit is my first question. And my second question is, based on the 2025 budget as presented, we will have $4 million in reserves. And that includes all the funds allocated in the 2025 budget.
So off the top of my head, I'm going to say 2 or 3. I do have a spreadsheet I could go to and double check, but I'm going to say 2 or 3 were deficits. And the next question, sorry, if you could repeat, please, through Madam Mayor.
The second question is, at the end of, including all the funds allocated in 2025, we will have $4 million in reserves.
Yes, I believe that we will, through Madam Mayor, Councilor McGregor, we will have just over $4 million in reserves after we pulling at the 1.4 that's in there. I believe with the surplus going in, we will have just over 4 million in reserves. Again, the sort of scarier part is if we have a deficit next year, if we budget too tight, we will go under that 4 million. I have no doubt in my mind. It's not like you always go over by $1. It's generally 400,000 to 500,000 one way or the other.
No, and so I'm using broad numbers here, but last year when we sat here, we thought at the end of 2024, we'd have around $1.5 million in reserves. Is that a fair
I feel like that's a little bit lower, but
okay, but close, right? A lot less than
yeah,
4.
I'd have to go back and look at the presentation, but I think it's somewhere around the 2 point something. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
One of the big things I think we've all thought about is how we cut the costs of heat in halls when they're not being used, or heat in garages when they're not being used, or they could be lowered, or some of those cost-saving things. Because I've just looked at the payroll, and when it comes to the deliveries of propane and oil, it's huge, huge bills. And with this kind of a winter, it's been so cold that I'm sure it's going to be higher in 2025 than it was in 2024. if we need to cut, can we look at what the list of the capital items are that we had talked about last time? So we know exactly what it is we're,
Yeah, I mean, we can, everything's on the table until the budget's passed, right? Whether it's operating or whether it's capital. I would have to find a list of what we had from last time.
where might we find it in these
Well,
documents?
right now you could go to the biggest detailed one, the GL level one, the 38 or 46 page one, and what is that? 47 pages? Okay, perfect. I had 54.
Yes, go ahead, Susan.
Through Madam Mayor, just talking about the cost for the halls. The strategic plan asks us to prioritize investment in the halls based on usage. Have we looked at how the halls are used? I know we want to keep all the halls open, but I just raise that as a consideration if we have to cut costs.
It's definitely something we can ask staff to bring back a report of cost versus revenue, income versus expenses for all the halls.
Michael gets to them.
Anything else? Philip?
The first thing that jumps at me is we have a number of positions that we agreed to that we've not filled yet, and they've been on the books for a while. Is it worthwhile looking at those at this point and saying remove, excuse me, remove them from the budget until we've done the org review and maybe potentially plan for those in 2026?
Everything's on the table. The one item that I would say would be the building, second building inspector, because that's funded through building permits. However, with building permits being down right now, Andy, maybe this isn't the time until we see what happens further on in the year. It could be part of a year instead of a whole year. Think it's July 1st, maybe? Duncan?
Through Madam Mayor, sorry, Michael, to keep asking you numbers while you're looking at other ones, but how much of the budgeted amount is for positions that aren't hired yet? So how many positions do we have out there that there's not actually a person filling a seat?
I'm gonna say 1% of the tax levy, because they're starting later in the year through Madam Mayor, sorry, Councilor McGregor. Because they're starting later in the year, I'm gonna say one and a bit % of the levy.
So like, yeah, so like right around 100,000, 150,000?
140, yeah.
Okay, and that includes the proposed planning position, the deputy building inspector?
The deputy building inspector, the executive assistant, however we called that, and the asset management procurement specialist.
Okay. So I would agree with Councillor Smith, and that would be something we could definitely remove for the budget until we're done the org review and look at it again in 2026.
Okay, so there's 140. We're on the right path.
And Michael can give us the details there. I don't have mine with me on that in regards to which positions. And the dollars.
Yeah, about 140,000 for the deputy building inspector, the asset management procurement specialist, and whatever the other one was, executive assistant.
Did we
Okay.
include in there the consultant for the review?
Yeah, we put in money, 50,000, did we not put in for the org review in the budget?
Yes,
Yeah.
the org review is in there.
Okay,
It's already
so
in there.
that will stay in.
Yeah, that's to tell us.
Nikki?
To follow up, though, we haven't hired the planner position, and we've had it in there. So are you
No,
close?
I would suggest that we don't do that at this point. I actually was speaking to a planner, and if we're looking for a professional planner, the likelihood is very nil to find them. And then, because I tried to see if one of those individuals would be willing to come here. And they said, no. I think that you're going to have a very hard time to find something like that. So I think we're better off to just continue the way we are, and certainly with the county at this point, until we have some money that we can do that.
So how much money would that be, 0.5%, or would it be close to, like, I'm sure we talked about 100,000 or something that potentially for a planner?
Did we take it out of Michael already? Do you remember?
I was feeling, honestly, to Madam Mayor, Kathy, CEO, sorry, I feel like it's not in there. Like, I feel like when we rejig things that it's taken care of. So I don't feel like there's 100,000 in there to change. I could double check. And if there is, we simply just leave it in reserves or whatever, but I'll make a note.
Okay, yeah, because we talked about it, so we may have taken it already out.
So it was actually 240. Now it's down to 140. And that's coming out.
Sorry, just to confirm, you said if it is in there, you're going to leave it in reserves. So if we're trying to cut things today, leaving it in reserves or putting it in reserves.
So what I was thinking was if it's in there and we can cut it and then not pull from reserves. I think I said it a different way, but
So it was
so
an in
then
and
that would
out.
end up leaving money in reserves versus doing, so yeah, I mean, I with questions flying around, I need a few more minutes
Yeah.
to figure out if it's in there or not. But since I have the floor, the loans are at 2.7 million, including the internal loans at the end of 2024.
Is there one being paid off this year?
The Crow Lake Road loan, say that 10 times fast, is being paid off February 28th. So 2 months in this year, but that's already been taken into account.
Okay. Duncan.
I have 2 questions about bylaw enforcement. One isn't going to help us and one might. So I asked Kathy privately, but I'll ask publicly now. We have both the salary for our bylaw enforcement officer as well as Frontenac municipal bylaw enforcement. And I thought we were getting rid of the contracted services when we hired the bylaw enforcement officer. That's question number 1. And then question number 2 is, the way I read the budget is there's $80,000 in revenue from AMP fines. And that seems like a really, really high number. That's, I think, works out to be like $1,600 a week or something.
When I put that number in with the bylaw officer, that was an estimate, and they seem to think that was low.
And I think in regards to the position and we haven't finalized with the Frontenac municipal bylaw enforcement to be on call for when Nicole is not available for weekends or anything like that. So I have not finalized that, so that we have putting some money into the budget just in case. But that's something we can certainly look at. The idea that is that if she is on vacation or if she's not available and a situation happens and we don't have a backup, but council just needs to be aware that that'll happen. If that happens, it happens. We can't respond. So just that we'll have to be able to let people know that.
What is the cost of having the other group as standby?
I'm not sure yet at this time because I haven't talked to them in
So what
regards
if
to
we-
standby.
What have we
No.
put in the budget for that? 21,000. Okay.
Okay.
So that's not huge.
So
Yeah.
I would still like to, because of the sharp increase in bylaw enforcement, I would like to remove the 21,000.
Let's wait till we get to the end and see if 21,000 will make a difference. Because again, if you do have an incident, what do? You have no coverage.
And respectfully, Madam Mayor, through you to the rest of council, I think council needs to make that decision now while we're at budget time to see if we can remove that 21,000.
Nikki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm concerned about the 80,000 in fines. Our goal isn't to, like, today we came here with a 9% budget. Okay, your taxes are going up, and there's a potential that you're still going to get fined for doing something wrong on top of it. So I'm going to pay my taxes at the high bill, and then I'm also getting a potential of a fine. I want to work with people. We're a community. We want to build a community. And Nicole did say that she likes to work with people and do that, which I think is commendable. So putting 80,000 in there as potential fines as revenue for us, I'd rather leave it at 0 this year, see what happens, and put potential revenue in next year. I know it's going to hurt the budget, but like we can't nickel and dime. Like, people are nickel and diming at the grocery store, at the gas pumps, at their propane, their heat and everything. So to add the potential of more on top of it, it just doesn't sit well with me.
I do think you have to put something in there for revenue because it's already starting to come in. Susan?
There's a purpose to the penalty, and that's to encourage compliance. And if, I think we have to put something in the budget for it to show the public that we're serious about this.
And I know that Nicole has been working with people. So it's not that she's just, there's repeat offenders, and she's been spending a lot of time education and with the education as well. So, but maybe 80,000 is too much. I don't know. It was just a number we put in for something in there. So maybe, I don't know, Michael, maybe we put in 40,000, half of that or something as revenue, just in case, because we know there's been money coming in right now with a couple of things that have already happened. And I mean, the people are not complaining. They're paying, so.
Okay, Bill and then Lynn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For me personally, and I sort of agree with Councillor Gowdy, it's calling it a revenue. That makes it sound like we're deliberately targeting people to increase our tax base when we're not. So.
Lynn?
I echo those comments. I just feel like calling it, it's not like we're aiming for 80,000. We're aiming for compliance. And if people aren't going to be compliant, then yes, they're going to be fined. The word revenue makes it seem like we're sending her out there to look for some money for us. And that's not.
We can change it to fines, but it still would go in
the term itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Penalty/fines. Okay, let's call it that and reduce it to 40. Is that what I'm hearing? Reduce it to half? Okay, all right.
Done. I was going to suggest the fines as well and put it halfway to 40 because I can understand what council's saying, but it is still revenue to us.
In accountants' terms, it's revenue. In council terms, it's penalties and fines. Okay. All right. What else? Okay.
The next one I'd like to look at is a $6,000 printer and a $15,000 license module. So we'll go with the printer first. Why we need a $6,000 printer?
So I believe that's the photocopier, and I think that's what it cost us last time if we had to buy it. One of them has to be replaced. County IT told us, I think it was a year and a half ago, that we haven't replaced it. So it's behind the schedule. I'd have to double check. I think last time we purchased it versus leasing it. I mean, that's another option to look at to reduce it a little bit. I mean, the more Brendan has to work on it, the more time he doesn't have to work on stuff. So it's more a repair thing, I believe.
How many printers and photocopiers do we have in the administrative office?
3.
Just 3 printers. So if this one, I assume, is working now, if it happened to go and break in August, we would still have 2 backups.
We would have 2 backups at tax time, which is only twice a year. We are using all 3 printers. The other thing is, I'm just gonna say it honestly. I mean, you go from your office, you go to the printer, you walk by people. The less I have to walk by somebody, the more I can get back to my desk and get back to work. So that's just another thought as well. In terms of efficiency, cost and whatnot, these bigger photocopiers are cheaper than the one that we have. So, and last time when we switched the printer at the boardroom to the new one, it was like a night and day difference of how the speed came out and how quick it, like, just everything was so much better with it than the previous one. Not always the case, I'm sure.
Susan.
Through Madam Mayor to our treasurer, just a question as to why we decided to purchase rather than lease. Is there any savings with the lease, or was it felt to be more affordable by purchasing?
So I always try and keep my professional hat on, but sometimes the personal one gets in, and I'm not a fan of leasing, regardless of what it is. I would rather purchase. But I know that we have leased before and it's worked out fine. I need to be open-minded to that. It's just not my preference. So whatever one the county IT felt that we should do, that's the one we'd go with if it was lease or purchase. So if we were leasing, I'd have to see what the annual cost of the one is now and potentially reduce it by 3 or 4, maybe, is what it's in my mind. And then Councilor McGregor had his second point there, Madam Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, just to follow up to the reply. Would it be possible, so last year in the budget, we replaced a bunch of laptops that there was nothing wrong with. They were just on the schedule to replace. And this year we're kind of doing the same with the printer, and I'm sure we're doing it with some laptops in the budget. If we removed all of the individual line items for the what ifs, like just replacing laptops for the sake of replacing them, or replacing printers just for the sake of replacing them because they're getting up to time, we removed all that from the budget and have one line item for technology replacement of $15,000. We would save money and only replace things as needed. So if the printer was to break in July, you could just go out and buy a printer from that line item. If a laptop was to break, you could just go buy it from that line item. Would that save us money?
It potentially would save money. I think in the budget right now, I'm going to say it's around 18,000. So you might save 3 going to your 15,000, Councilor McGregor, through Madam Mayor. But we also have an agreement with the county that it gets replaced before warranty is out.
Yeah, because they do the bulk buying.
They do the
Isn't
bulk
it the
buying, they do
county?
the
Yeah.
installation and whatnot. And if I remember correctly, it's the warranty reason.
So it's because the warranty's off of it. If you have to get a service call, you pay through an arm and a leg. So I guess the question is, do you want to break the agreement with the county and go on our own? Or do you want to continue with the county doing it as they suggest with the warranty? Susan?
Through Madam Mayor, I believe that if we get the benefit of bulk buying, it's probably more cost effective than us going alone.
Okay. What else?
Councilor McGregor had a second point there on the licensing module.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. So last year, the licensing module was in the budget. We cut it. One of the conversations we had at the time was we're not receiving any new revenue from it. So the licensing module, if I understand correctly, is for licensing like Airbnbs or any future things that we want, chip trucks, whatever thing we want to license. And we cut it last year. I think if we made it through 2024 without it, I think we can make it through 2025 without it, unless something changed, and that would save us $15,000.
So through Madam Mayor, Councilor McGregor, yes, we can absolutely cut it. I'm not a fan of it, to be honest. My first intention of getting the licensing module is to use it for animals, but I think that was perceived wrong, that it was only for that. It was for that and the potential use of bylaw officer coming in and different revenue, and depending where council wanted to go with licensing chip trucks and whatnot. We could also do asset management through Excel and paper or rock and stone, but I don't think it's as efficient as using the citywide software. So that's another reason I would say keep it in, but it's an easy cut. Can we survive? Absolutely. We can survive another 5 years without it. I am a big fan of the citywide software, and I think it's very user friendly. We use it for every department, public works, module, the asset management, the budgeting. If I had to produce the reports that I did now for council, like I can probably create a report if everybody has a 10-minute discussion and get it done and get council an answer, that a report that I've never made before. So technology isn't the all be all, but citywide software has saved us a lot of time, and I've got probably 200 reports there that I can pull from my hat every year. So yes, we can absolutely do it. It's $15,000. Everything adds up, but on its own, it's not a big dollar item. So just let me know.
So what's your pleasure? Cut the license? Show of hands. We can? Yeah? Okay, so there's 2 on the side. 2 on the side. Sounds like we're ordering food. Okay, what else? Nikki?
I just have my first round of questions. Michael, under corporate, we have grants from non-government agencies of 100,000 as revenue. I'm not sure what that is.
So I just want to remind council or let council know that I went with a new computer yesterday. So if it takes me an extra second, it's trying to find the different looking icons. But off the top of my head, that may be for the washroom through the
Okay.
county, if I'm thinking correct. But if you have the GL number there, I'll try and look it up here.
Do you just want the last 5 digits of it or the whole thing? 20-020-0250-40097.
Thank you.
Then my next question is, we have a position under civic address expense. What's that position?
So that is a position that goes out and installs the civic addressing signs and whatnot. So there is cost to that. So it's nice to allocate it as best we can to realistic, like where it actually belongs.
So that's for a person that's already employed for us,
Correct.
just charged out
Yes, it's not a
to that,
new.
to that category.
$100 last year, so that's what kind of like,
Yeah, and every once a year or twice a year, we try as department heads look and say, you know, what is the percentage that we allocated to that position correct in that, you know, is that person helping building as much as they were before? No. Okay, well, let's adjust it to better realistic situation.
and it's only $1,000, but what were we doing in a cemetery for $1,000 as a capital project?
Would it be fencing?
As a capital project, I'll have to look
You
at
have to
that one
look
as
that
well.
up, yeah. Sometimes we do it for fencing or things that need to be done, gates. Fences sometimes, but I'm not sure.
Well, I know that we've had a carryover project for Piccadilly for a few years and it hasn't gotten done, but it has a separate line in there
Oh, okay.
for it.
So-
But this one, like it just seemed weird. $1, I would understand that it's just a placeholder, but
Right.
$1,000 is,
Councillor Gowdy, which cemetery is that?
it's at the very end at capital projects and cemeteries. Oh, it's transferred to reserves.
Okay, I saw 1,000 there for that, but I was trying to see 1,000 anywhere else, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Dan.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. On the safety device operation expenses, is that a realistic number? 125,000 for signs and guardrails? Accidents, they replace the guardrails for insurance? Steve, or is,
To you, Madam Mayor, sometimes we get them replaced, I think, money from the guardrails for the insurance, but not all the time, no.
But do you think 125 is enough?
there's safety signs, CP crossings, regular signs, and also the guardrails too for that, in that whole 125, Steve.
It is a realistic number, I think, because it seems like every year the guardrail prices keep going up and we need to replace them, keep everybody safe, and signs, reflectivity, we do the reflectivity every year, and we have a bunch right now we need to replace, so they just got done not too long ago, did the test for the reflectivity, so.
So once we do have signs, though, we do keep them for future uses, I guess, as well.
Like the regulatory signs you're saying, or what?
Well, any signs like detour signs and stuff like that, we don't replace them every time we need a detour sign. We do reuse the signs, I guess.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yeah, the detour signs and construction signs and stuff like that we use, but the regulatory signs, like the speed signs and the corner signs, we have a company that comes out and they have to have a certain reflectivity. If they don't pass, we have to change them. So every year we usually go around and change a bunch of them.
Nikki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have 80,000 under recreation for engineering. Is that the bathroom project?
It just quickly before any goes on, that 100,000 was for the washroom.
Okay, thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the washroom would be in there, but also Mountain Grove Hall, the repairs that it needs, and any other buildings. I'd like to get shovel-ready projects so that when grants come available, that we can have projects ready to submit. Otherwise, we can miss out. I think it'd be well worth keeping that money in there. One grant would pay it back. That's something I was going to ask if I could get approval today for that engineering line, so I can get started getting drawings ready so that we're not, otherwise the project drag into next year because contractors are lining their jobs up already for summer. So I would like to get going on that.
Okay, Bill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was just a request that we call out page numbers so that we're not,
Yeah, that helps.
thank you.
Duncan and then Susan.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Sorry, Bill, I don't have Councilor Everett, I don't have the page number. Andy just made a very good point about the engineering. I agree with him that this needs to get passed. Council has a whole bunch of, a lot of projects on the go, and we can't get the grant applications through as fast as we'd like because nothing is ready to go. So if we want to do as many projects as we're talking about, including the recreation center or the recreation upgrades in Mountain Grove, the Titchburn Rink, the Sharp Lake Washroom project, any other grants, it's better that we have these projects sitting engineered with drawings ready to go. When a grant comes up, we can just apply, and that will be the only opportunity I think we have to get the grants and get these projects completed. So I would, what do we need to do to make this, Andy, get this done today?
Be done it would have to be done as a resolution so that it can be, we can go forward with that.
So for now, let's just set it aside, come back to it at the end. So I'll put 80,000 here. Susan?
Through Madam Mayor, and I apologize for raising this question, but with tariffs looming, are we tariff proof in our expenses, or have we built in a factor to account for a possible increase?
Through Madam Mayor, Councillor Irwin, it's on the back of my mind, but I've not paid enough attention to it to know exactly what is going on. But the main spot I thought of it was fuel. I don't know if that's one of the items that are going to be implicated in, but ultimately we have a budget and we have to do our best to live within it regardless of what comes up. And that might mean we get 4 apples instead of 6.
Okay, Philip.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just would like to ask Andy, I guess, what other projects besides this Sharp Lake Washroom and the Mountain Grove Hall would make up some engineering work in that $80,000?
They're the two main ones that I have in mind. There's been talk of redoing the kitchens and bathrooms at Oso Hall here. Basically, I would like to look at all the facilities and get a long-term plan for, the work that they need done in the future so that we have everything ready to go and we have a plan to follow rather than, renovating a small area, without a long-term plan, then you might be tearing that area apart in the future to renovate another area.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Nikki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I follow up on something you said at the very beginning? Michael, do you just have a list of the capital projects instead of us having to go through all the papers? Do you have a list of just the capital projects that are left in the budget that we can look at and might be easier to discuss?
Through Madam Mayor, Councillor Gowdy, timing's everything in life, and I was just trying to bring that up. So patience, please, and thank you. But it's funny because we were just thinking the same thing.
We did have a list, I thought. Let me pull my big file.
Yeah, I believe I included one with the last one because we were kind of focused on operating in capital. So I'll try and find that one as well.
This little darling. Except it's pages and pages.
There's one big one too.
I'll keep looking. Aha, capital. Operating in capital.
Just give me 1 minute. Almost there.
Projects by priority. I have it. I think it's this one. I don't have that spreadsheet, but
I've got it.
$5,587,000. Okay. Yes. Yes, go ahead.
If I may just follow up on Mr. Dillon's, if I could just follow up on Mr. Dillon's comments about a long-term plan for our halls. I think that's an excellent idea, but I think we should incorporate into that the study on usage, because that will help prioritize what maintenance needs to be done first.
Unfortunately, I think when we do that study, we will wonder why we have halls. But they're very important to the little communities that they're in. It's one of those lost leaders that I don't know what we do with it when we get the information. Okay, we do have, is that up there, capital?
Yeah. It's a little small, Madam Mayor, but that is the report.
Real slow. Okay, so there was four, the first four were fire.
I think you've got a different sheet than what he's got. He's got this up.
Listen, I did well to find this.
Here, look at that one. Take that
Well,
one.
if I can read it off, I mean, in corporate services, we have 6,000.
See, looks like it's something like.
6,000 for the copier replacement and 15,000 for the licensing module.
Can we just stop and
Yep.
deal with these? Okay, we talked about the copier replacement.
Hmm.
Are we going with replacing the copiers at 6,000? Okay, all right. And the 15,000. So that 21,000 we're coming back to. Okay, all right. Sorry, Michael, onward.
So we have emergency response equipment for 4,000. Apparatus installed equipment for 10,000, and we are in fire, sorry. 6,000 for fire hose. 32,000 for building improvements and maintenance. And that's what we talked about earlier. Apparatus and vehicle purchases, 550, and computer replacement for 6,000.
What was that total?
608,922, Madam Mayor.
Okay,
Good to move forward?
we're good.
That's what we talked about earlier.
What was that 32,000 that we talked about earlier?
Special money,
Oh, right.
special money.
Special possible grant money?
Yeah.
Okay,
So building services is 6,000 for 2 computers. Moving on to facilities,
yes,
we have 200,000 in for Olden Hall. 15,000 for the medical center. 5,000 for the Long Lake Beach Light. 300,000 for
just a minute,
Sorry?
slow down. Long
She's
Lake
taking check and-
Beach. It was how much?
5,000.
Okay,
Sharp Lake Washroom is 300,000. Again, some of that coming through county money and offsetting. The Arden Hall is 15,000. Oso Hall is 5,000. For a total of $540,000.
okay. Is there any of that that can change?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's not all the capital, though, right?
That's all, no, I'm just stopping at each
It's just
section,
the
Mr. Madam Mayor, for any questions or rather than trying to go too fast.
Okay,
Okay?
Nikki,
Right.
Sorry, Michael. What,
Okay.
so we went from 40 to 15 on the Kennebec Hall. What, so is it just the fob system that you're putting in at Kennebec now?
The building automation, I believe, if I click into here. Yes.
Yeah. I think on one of the notes that we had, it said they were removing the exterior updates that they were going to do, which is the eave troughs and soffits. Is that
Yes.
correct? Yeah,
Yeah, cancel the exterior upgrades, but I show here.
So- which are in dire need, but could wait another year, I suppose, if we need to.
Okay, Duncan?
Sorry, I just have to declare a conflict of interest because they mentioned fobs, so
Okay.
I'm declaring the conflict now.
Well, I'll speak about fobs because I don't have a conflict. There's got to be a cheaper way to do it. Yes. You, you
Is
know
that
my
Madam
soft
Mayor's
spot called
temperature?
heat, eh?
So the payback would be a lot quicker than on exterior upgrades.
Dan?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Andy, not all the halls have internet service, so would that make a difference or would that be satellite?
We would just be looking at the buildings that have Wi-Fi already.
So Mountain Grove and Piccadilly are out.
Right.
Keep in mind, though, I think Starlink has worked quite well at the Kennebec Hall, and it's not like we couldn't expand that to other halls if we wanted to put this automation system everywhere. No.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I say that's not cheap, and Elon Musk is not our favorite person right now. It's $160 a month.
Yeah.
That's added to the cost of halls where the revenue isn't great.
And plus, it's the purchase of the hardware. But in the case of Kennebec, the rec committee purchased all the hardware to make that happen.
Good, thank you. That's
And
good.
I'm sure the service is appreciated by anybody who needs to use it. So
But
I
the
understand your
160
points.
a month is expensive. It is. Okay, so are fobs in or out for 2 halls for $15,000?
Philip's got a question.
Oh, Philip,
That's just one.
1 hall. Well, I know what I think it's,
And it's
even
not
though
just
it could
fobs.
be warm. I can turn up the thermostat with my finger when I get there.
Vicky's asking. Well, they have to.
Yeah, the problem is we don't want them touching the thermostats.
Can we put lock boxes on them?
Mhm.
Over here.
To follow up to that, but our cleaner comes, currently, the cleaner comes in and unlocks the hall and they could set the thermostat and lock it. They're coming back after they function at the hall. Again, they could lower the thermostat and do that. And that is already in the budget and we're saving $15,000 for this year.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Are these thermostats not programmable? Because I know, like, for example, in my home, you program it, I have it at like 68 through the day and then it goes down to 63 or 65 at night. Like, can we not do that with our things? Like, why do we have to have all this other stuff?
You can, but you can override those as well. Right, Andy? Oh, okay. We're not talking about fobs now. We're going to talk about thermostats, just so that Councillor McGregor can discuss thermostats.
So the building department's idea of putting thermostats in, even if you do not have access to internet, yes, you would reduce what you can do with them, but you can have a lot of neat functions built in. So you can have the thermostats turn themselves down every hour. So unless someone is on the site to turn it up, it's going to turn themselves back down. There's a bunch of other things you're able to do with them that you can't do with just a standard thermostat. So upgrading the thermostats is going to save on our heating bill, regardless if we have internet to the building or not.
And this thermostat is one of those because I put it to 20 and within an hour, it's back down to 18. Right, Andy? This is a trick thermostat.
Yeah, it does do that. Where if you had one with an occupancy sensor, as long as people were moving around, it would stay at a comfortable temperature.
Okay, what do we want to do? 15,000 in or out? Philip?
Can you break it apart? So we're only talking about the thermostat and not fobs this year? Like what would be the breakdown between the two?
How expensive are those little thermostats that,
I would estimate probably $600, maybe more if we have to hire somebody to install it.
now is that the one that's motion centered or just the one that goes down after the hour?
I haven't looked into everything that's available. I was just talking to a couple
But if you,
contractors yesterday to see what they would recommend, but
but if we said $4,000, potentially you could do all 4 holes then.
Yes. Okay, so let's,
So may I ask a clarification question, Madam Mayor, through yourself to Andy? Was this not going to save the caretakers having to go out as well, at least one trip and not having to clean it? And then therefore the bids coming in later would be cheaper?
yeah, yes, that was part of the
So
idea
just
as
to
well.
factor that in the decision, it should save us money
but the cleaners still have to go, do they
to come
not?
and clean, but maybe they wouldn't have to go to unlock it because we could unlock it with technology.
No.
Ah. Nikki,
Kathy, can you, through you, Madam Mayor, Kathy, could you clarify, the contract is based on the cleaning contract is based on a monthly amount. It doesn't matter if they have to go in 30 times or 100 times, it's still the exact same amount each month.
That's correct. So not Jody, you remember when we did that contract? I think it is. Yeah, I think you're right.
But if
Councillor
I'm
Jody?
estimating that I have to go in 100 times, I'm going to charge a lot more than the 30 times. Just, you know.
It was just whatever.
anyway, the 15 is going down to 5. Bill,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I used to book this hall every November, and the deal with them was I went into the office, I signed for a key, and I returned the key the next day. Why do we need technology?
very good question.
Then you don't have to see my pretty face.
He's in a different office, Madam Mayor.
So are we content to take 10 down to 5 or 15 down to 5? Okay. 15 down to 5. Another year, Andy. All right. Public Works.
Sorry, I was making adjustments. I'm like, oh, wait, that's me.
Because I'm-
So we have a computer replacement for 3,000. We have the Charlotte Lake Building Project at a total of 508, 504. Which most 93% of that I think is covered by grants.
Okay.
We have the pavement preservation program at 800,000. Which part of that was already approved, I believe, in the last meeting. 500 of it. Okay.
So that's 800,000?
Correct.
Okay.
The AVL additions to the fleet, there's 12,000. The Hinchabrook Sand Dome is at 120,000, which is a 20,000 increase from what we had budgeted before. There's a tandem plow truck for 410. Let me know, Madam Mayor, if I'm going too fast.
It's okay. You've already lost me.
All right. I'll find you again.
Okay.
Promise. Dixon Crescent resurface for 80,000. Tractor and brusher for 520. Charlotte Lake Causeway for 310. A half-ton patrol truck for 70.
How much?
70,000.
770?
Correct, 70. Tandem plow truck for 450,000.
To you, Madam Mayor, it's 370 and then tax and whatever radios and stuff we need in it. That's the last one we brought to get approved right away.
Yeah, the one. No, I believe, Councilor Gaddy, I believe it's the one up top that we dropped to 410, but I can double check that.
I don't know. How many trucks are we buying? 3?
To you, Madam Mayor, 2 plow trucks, 2 tandem plow trucks.
2 plow and 1 half-ton.
Yep.
The one was from last year, right? Yes, 2
And
plow
what-
trucks have already been approved as well.
Right.
One was last year.
Okay.
So we did the causeway, half ton, plan tandem, tractor and chippers at 160. I don't know if I said that one. Road 509 is at 350,000. And the electronic emergency signs that we discussed earlier is at 50,000.
What's the total that you've got?
3,839,000. And a total of just over 5 million. Which compares to last year of almost $300,000 decrease in capital projects.
Okay, Duncan.
Through Madam Mayor to the Public Works Manager. The Charlotte Lake Causeway, you'd sent us a note late last year that the Charlotte Lake Causeway might cost less. Does the 310,000 reflect that, or is the 310,000 the reduced rate?
You, Madam Mayor, no, that doesn't reflect it. We were told to put 300 in. We put 310 because it was going to be way more than that if we had did it this fall with the heat and everything. So they told us to budget the 300.
So the 310 is the reduced number by waiting until doing it in the spring.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be like 500,000 or something you had said earlier,
Okay.
if we did it now. So yes, 310 is the reduced.
Perfect. Great.
And that's already been out. That's already been sent out. Did we not do the ad for that already?
I think it closes. I believe it closes this Friday.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's already up there.
Good.
The causeway.
So in a couple of weeks, we'll know exactly what the number is.
Yes, that's right.
Nikki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Steve, I'm going to pick on you again over the tractor and chipper. Is it something that we can put off for a year? Like you said that the problem with the tractor was the clutch. So to do replace the clutch would be a lot cheaper than buy a brand new one and just wait a year and see what then 2026 looks like. And you rent a chipper now.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I don't like saying this, but yeah, we probably could go till next year without a tractor, and I could keep using it the way it is, and hopefully it stays together in grass cutting season. Worst case, the clutch goes in it. The problem is to replace the clutch and everything, it's worth more than the tractor's worth itself running. So if something happened and the clutch went in it, I would probably just hire a contractor to finish the mowing on the sides of the road this year, and then I could put the tractor in next year.
And Steve, how much would it puddle if you had to contract it out approximately? We
Yes,
had to go and
estimate.
contract it for something, just an estimate.
I'm gonna say around probably 30 to 60,000, depending what price we get from. And we may get half it done. We may get it all done this year. The clutch adjustments is at its max now, so we can't go any further. So if it stops, it's done. So.
So about 60 to 60,000. Okay.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Nikki.
Can I follow up, Steve? How many tractors do we have how many tractors do we have in total right now? And do you have them all on the road all summer? Like we already approved the brusher last fall for this year's budget. So you're going to have it out brushing. The tractors are just doing the grass along the roads. So how many do you have that you could possibly move them around if the clutch goes?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we have 3 tractors, and usually they all go at mowing season because the one tractor we have can brush and mow it. This one that does behind the guardrails, so it helps get the grass caught up, and then it goes back onto brushing or whatever. So, but we have 3 tractors that can go. So if we get down, we're down to 2 tractors. It would just take a little longer to mow. If we didn't contract it out, it would just take a little longer to mow the roads. That's all. Maybe some overtime, get people to come in extra time or something.
Oh, Duncan, go ahead.
Through Madam Mayor, Dixon Crescent, is there anything we can do in-house on Dixon Crescent to get it to last a couple more years?
No,
I think we could grade off the so-called pavement that's there and put it back to gravel and put lots of salt on it or hard top it.
calcium.
Calcium.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we could, I think it was just recycled asphalt that was on it. We could take some of that up. There's not much of it left. It's got a lot of gravel on it, and put extra calcium and make it last another year.
I think the residents would appreciate one or the other, to either have it something that can be graded or to hard top it. Yeah, because
So-
it's a mess.
So could we remove the $80,000 from the budget and allocate internal resources to patching it to get us through this year? Understanding full well that we may have to wait a while until you have the staff available to do it.
And understanding that this has been put off for about 10 years.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, we could do it. We could just, it doesn't need much gravel, a little bit of gravel. And some in-house work from the guys.
Could we
It
put
it could
that,
last another year. It's not gonna get any worse. So,
could we put that blue gravel on it? That stuff that really packs down, that we put on Shibley?
through you, Madam Mayor, yeah, I could take some of that. Actually, I could probably take some of that out of our gravel budget to do that. It's just, it's a little more money, but
It really packs down well. It almost looks like it's hard top. Philip?
I think for myself, I'd sooner see us cut the tractor and the brusher out of the budget and leave Dixon Crescent in. It, you know, that's, roads are one of the services we need to provide, so.
And it's been bad for a while.
Susan?
The residents of Dixon Crescent have been very patient. It is an atrocious road. It needs work, so I would like to see it stay in.
Okay, so how many people, show of hands, how many people want to take out the tractor brusher? Two,
Chipper, you got one.
chipper. Okay. And how many want to see Dixon Crescent taken out? So the chipper tractor is
Sorry.
gone.
Okay, then no. If we're willing to give up that, then yes, Dixon can stay in.
Dixon Crescent then.
So keep those tractors running. So that takes out, how many dollars there, Michael?
160,000, Madam Mayor.
160?
May I propose a question to Andy?
Sure.
I would rather see my citywide licensing module wait another year and see the building automation system go forward and see how it works as a pilot project. If he feels that's important enough to do, if he doesn't, then we can leave it at that 5,000.
So we have a negotiation going on here, 15 for 15, right?
It's up to council.
But would you negotiate that, Andy?
I'm willing to negotiate.
Would council be prepared to see that negotiation completed? Okay, so
so I-
license is out, fob and
Thank you.
thermostat that is automatic goes in. Very cooperative, folks. Nikki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So Michael, now we've cut 2% off right now. For the first cut was the salary position at 1%. And now we cut the tractor 160. So that takes us down another percent. So now we're sitting at 7.
And we reduced our fine revenue by 40,000. So there's a third of that. So yes, we're probably just 2.5. Yes,
So we'd be at 7 or 6.5, maybe. 6.5.
I have not been able to keep up with the updates in here automatically, so I can't provide you an exact
How
number
about
when
we
we're
take
done
that?
at this moment. Sorry.
Yes. How about we take a coffee break?
And let Michael
And
do
have-
get caught up.
Have people think about their next pages?
Yes.
So, said 10 minutes?
Yeah. Dan's coming there. He's just waiting for the coffee to finish.
Okay, folks, we're ready to go back. Are we live? We are live. Okay. Dan's just coming with his coffee. All right, Michael, where did we end up?
So we are at, let me go to the other one here, and I think I'm still sharing. I don't know if it'll switch. Yes. So we are at a 6.4% levy increase. And there's one step that I didn't do, I'm realizing right now, but a 6.4% levy increase. But there's a little more negotiating going on over there, and I'd like to propose that to council if I may. I do kind of take an extra breath when I propose this, because what I'm going to propose is that we take fuel down by another $50,000 in the budget, and we take sand and salt down by 100,000. So that should leave us about $100,000 buffer for fuel and about a $72,000 buffer for sand and salt, which can again be eaten up in a heartbeat with a snowstorm and whatnot, and put the tractor chipper back in. That would increase the service level to residents. That would allow Public Works to do their job properly. And I asked Steve just there in Lance, what's more important to you? Having a buffer or having the equipment? And he put it back to me and said, what's more important to you? I hate cutting it so close, because I do think that we're going to end up in a deficit if we are too tight. But I'd say let's give this a shot and see where it comes out. And we may come back to council in December and say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. We're $50,000 over budget on fuel or sand and salt, or vice versa. There are things that are in our control, but out of our control. So there you go.
Okay, question. Could we buy a tractor without a chipper? We are? That's what the number is.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we can buy a tractor without a chipper. We just put it together, but we can get just a tractor and keep renting a chipper.
So what is that difference in dollars? Roughly.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm going to say it would be around 120 for the tractor.
Okay. So 120 instead of
160.
160. So it's saving 40. Is that something we'd want to do?
How much would the rental for the chipper be?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the rental for the chipper is 2 days though. It's $500 a day.
And would we still do a lot of chipping, or would we wait and do that another year?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's what they do in their free time. Like when there's not much going on this time of year, they're actually hand brushing today before the storm comes. There's crews out. We're hauling the brush away now, but should be chipped up. We could get away with it.
So there are alternatives. Not easy ones, but okay. What do you want to do? Susan?
Through Madam Mayor to Michael, I understand cutting the fuel, but I'm going to go back to your earlier comment in tariff proofing, and your thought was that fuel costs might be higher. So it is a bit of a risk, but I can.
Through Madam Mayor, Councillor Smith, or Councillor Irwin, sorry. I do appreciate that. I hate to see a project not done. It's like the right amount of reserves. I don't want to see a whole lot of money sitting in the bank that we can't get projects done and deliver services to residents, but I'd like to see it a lot higher so we have the ability to borrow from ourselves and invest. It's difficult, and I know council has a difficult job right now, and we're presenting you information and you have to make a decision on it. Sometimes you come out on the other side of a decision and you go, yeah, that was good. And sometimes you don't. Every year we reassess. Next year I might say, no, that was a bad decision. We should put it back up $100,000.
If I could follow through, I support getting the tractor and the chipper, because I just think it's going to cost us more down the road, and take that risk.
Okay. I apologize for interrupting.
Okay, the other, oh, sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Through you, Madam Mayor, another option we could try, and probably going to bring this forward next time we need a big piece of equipment. I'm going to try bring forward used equipment. Try to purchase a couple-year-old piece of equipment, because the last quote because we were going to need a grader down the road. I got told to budget $800,000 to $1 million for a grader, and you can buy one a few years old probably for about $300,000. So I think used I could look at a tractor that was a couple years old and see, you probably get it for 80, 90,000 with maybe 1,000 hours on it. I'm not sure if council wants to do that. And another thing I was wanting to bring up is I could probably cut the pickup truck back 10 grand if council will allow me to go on the website or Kijiji, same way we did the plow truck. We saved $60,000 on the plow truck by doing a quick search. Right now, there's a whole bunch of 24s on the lots that's really cheap that people are trying to get rid of. If we tender it out, they're going to tender us at 25, which I'll need the 70. If council allow me to, similar to the plow truck, get some prices, we get a 24. It may not be red, maybe gray, whatever. I think I could probably cut it down 10,000. I could probably do it to 60 if council would allow me to get it. But if we drag this on for another month or two, probably 24s are going to be getting eaten up by then.
So that's by getting quotes, like
Yes.
just comparing prices, 3 or 4 places.
For you, Madam Mayor, yes, yep.
Is that satisfactory? It makes sense if there's 24 sitting on the lot. Yeah,
Through you, Madam Mayor, they're new and they'll have warranty. It's just, it's not a 25 and it's still new and with warranty. So
yeah, exactly.
it just might not be red.
We get paint's cheap, stripes. Nikki,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Steve, if we go ahead and buy all this stuff, what can we surplus? Like you have some old stuff sitting around. What can you surplus? And is there anything that might add offset?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think the tractor, we would try to see what ours was worth on trade and maybe try to trade it in on a tractor. We do have some surplus stuff that we're going to be surplusing probably after winter. We have the trucks. We have 2 pickups and 2 tandems, 1 ton. We have a bit of stuff to, I think fire is going to have 1 to surplus too. So we have a few vehicles to surplus, but probably be March, April when the snow starts going away.
so a few $1,000s, but not 50.
To you, Madam Mayor, no, but I don't know what your used equipment's going for, but I'm going to say our tractor is running and driving. I'm going to say like 20, 30, maybe more than that for our tractor we traded in. So.
Okay, Duncan.
Okay, so if we drop fuel and salt and sand, 170, 150, that's 120,000, right? You'd like to purchase, if we just purchase a tractor by itself, it's 120,000. So that leaves us at net zero, right? If we then this year, if you were able to surplus some of these vehicles and get a good value for them, then you would be able to buy the chipper this year as well, right? So subtract sand and salt for 70, fuel for 50 is 120, buy the tractor for 120, that leaves us at net zero. You hopefully surplus $40,000 in vehicles to buy the chipper. Would that work? No, I'm asking for confirmation, Michael, that we're subtracting 70 for salt and sand and 50 for fuel. Is that what you're saying?
I had proposed 100 for sand and salt, leaving us with a 72 buffer
Okay, sorry. So you're suggesting we remove 150,000 from the budget.
from sand and salt and fuel, yes.
Excellent. Okay. And now, Steve, you're saying that if we buy just the tractor by itself, it's 120,000. So we have a net decrease in the budget of $30,000.
If we go with that bigger cut, but if we're not, I would, in my mind, it's worth cutting to get the service level and operational capabilities for Public Works. If we're just cutting for the sake of cutting, I would rather leave that buffer in there for the fuel or the sand and salt.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Okay, so let's go back to those numbers then. So we cut 70 for salt and sand and we cut 50 for fuel, right? That leaves us 120,000.
Yes.
The Public Works manager is able to buy just the tractor by itself for 120,000, right? So we're at no increase in the budget.
Brand new.
Brand new. We're at no increase in the budget. If worst case scenario, we have to rent a chipper for this year at $500 a day, if nothing else happens. Best case scenario, the Public Works manager is able to surplus some used equipment you have around. And hopefully with that surplus, we're able to then buy the chipper you want to buy. And we're still at net zero increase in the budget.
Or through Madam Mayor, he buys used of both and gets it cheaper than 120.
That's even better. Yeah.
Okay. The other possibility is to use $100,000 or $140,000 of our surplus or our reserve, once that goes into the reserve, to offset it as well. Which isn't going to take us below the 4 million. Right?
It'll be close.
140,000, it's a little bit compared to 10 million.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm hearing two things. One is have a look at used. Bring us 3 quotes for the truck and a tractor. The chipper would be new. And leave that in the budget.
Yes, and the chipper would be conditional on selling equipment to pay for it. So if he had $40,000 in equipment that you were going to surplus, it would be a bonus this year if we sell the used equipment and buy a new chipper. Does that sound fair?
Or sell the equipment and put it whatever revenue towards the cost of the chipper.
That's
Might
what I
not be
mean.
40.
It might not
but-
be exact, but yeah.
Okay. Nikki,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is kind of from two people that use tractors or families use tractors on a regular basis. We're a little hesitant on buying used. Used tractors that are out there that have the 1,000 hours on them are usually, not always, but usually have been leased out by construction companies who have numerous people using them and they've been used hard. And then the lease is up, they send them back, then they're sold used and you're getting somebody else's problem. If we're going to buy a tractor, in our opinion, we need to buy a brand new tractor that hasn't been used by anybody else that's going to come to us with 0 hours or 5 to 10, whatever. Because a tractor is a piece of equipment that can have multiple or expensive replacements, like a clutch, where we're in the same position. But that's only our opinion.
the farmers that like new equipment. Dan, did you have something?
Well, maybe you could have a look and see what kind of deal you can get and make that decision. You're more willing and capable of making that decision yourself.
There must be some kind of a guarantee when you buy used for a certain period of time.
Depends. It depends. That depends on what it is. It might be just
True.
be out of the parking lot, or it might be 30 days. It's not usually much, so.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we are at 6.4. And did this discussion just drop that a little bit? Be
No,
nice to
because
get to 5.4.
we moved around, Madam Mayor, and that's why I want to clarify if we're adding 120,000 for the tractor chipper and I'm offsetting 120, or are we adding 160 based on what was just mentioned? I just want to clarify the numbers if I can, please.
I think,
I agree with a new tractor, but I think we could hold off on the chipper until we see where we're at.
okay, Philip,
Oh, sorry.
How many days out of the year do you think you're going to use the chipper? You've told us it's $500 a day to rent it. That's 80 days if we're buying a brand new one.
So you, Madam Mayor. I don't know how many days you think, Lance. It wouldn't be 80 days. It wouldn't be 80 days, probably be maybe 30 to 40 days, maybe 30 days.
So for this year, it'd be cheaper to rent.
But through Madam Mayor to Steve, that's 30 days per year. So you'd have a 3-year payback. And I get there's renting versus buying or whatever, but you'd have an almost 3-year payback and then you'd hopefully have that equipment for 10 years, 20 years. And again, just more information, that's all.
Duncan,
So I'm not suggesting that at budget we decide to buy a new chipper. My suggestion is halfway through the year, if we have a bunch of extra equipment that we can surplus, the public works manager would come to us at the time and say, I can sell the plow, the whatever for 38,000 and I can buy a new chipper for 40. And so basically they'll cover the cost. So it'll be once again, net zero, selling used equipment and purchasing a new piece of equipment.
Okay, so through Madam Mayor and Councilor McGregor, thank you. So ultimately, we're putting in 120,000 for the tractor chipper. I've taken off 120 from sand, salt, and fuel. So we're, again, net even, we're still at 6.4% levy increase,
but we're only buying the tractor,
but we're only buying the tractor, correct?
right?
New.
New. Unless there's a real good deal of 5 hours on a tractor for
That
30,000.
should always be considered.
Okay,
I got another question. So where did we go with the pickup truck? Okay, we're cutting 10,000 off, but I need to know if we're gonna buy it,
I think,
approve it or not, or if we're not gonna approve it, I don't want to cut 10. I'm gonna leave it at 70 and just tender it out.
Oh, I already cut it to 60, so.
No, not yet.
I think that can be one of the motions of the two that we talked about doing today, and that is for you to get some prices on a half ton. Right?
Engineering, yeah,
So I'll put this down, half ton.
we need to do resolutions on all that.
Yes, it'll be in a resolution if that's acceptable.
Mhm.
Dan?
I just had a question, Michael, on the Sharbert Lake projects, 470,000, and then underneath it, it's 34,000 also. Could we tighten that number up?
No. Respectfully from Madam Mayor to Councillor Meeks, the 470 is the 93% that we get back as a revenue. And the 30 is our expense, but we have to put our 7% in. So that number is what's left of the grant money that we originally got approved for.
So 470 is the grant.
Yeah, so we can't, that number can't, I mean, we can spend less and our percentage will be less, but then we're not maximizing the grant, which is pretty nice to do.
And this has to be done this year, right?
I believe so. I'd have to double check.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we still have to figure that out and put in the project scope change request and then carry forward.
The other thing that we left hanging is the computers, the $6,000 for computer replacement, and whether or not we want to continue with the county. Oh, the printer, but there were also computers. There
So we
was
decided, I think, to,
9,000 in
I
computers.
thought they just, it was just Councillor.
Go ahead, Duncan.
We have in the budget for capital, $21,000 for technology that does not need to be replaced. Sorry, that's not the correct word. We have $21,000 for technology that is currently working.
Okay. So what do you want to do with that? We can stop using the county to do what we've been doing and replacing them even though they're working while the warranty's still on it. Or we can go off on our own and buy what we need to buy and replace it when it dies. What do you
So-
want to do? Lynn?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. What happens to the old equipment? Like, is there any salvage value for that comes back to anybody?
I don't
Like, do
think
we
so.
get anything back from that?
Brendan?
I was just looking at Brendan to see what happens. It goes back to Frontenac County. Right, and we've saved some, we've repurposed some, we have the old phones that we've tried to reuse. If that's council's desire, then I would want to have a conversation with
Oh.
David Millard and see how that
I would think so.
impacts the agreement. But if you're saying we want to get away from county IT services, I would do a resounding no.
This wouldn't be IT services. It would just be the equipment portion
So
of
who would
it.
buy the computers?
That's
I
right.
don't
They've
mind
got the
about it.
expertise. And I think if we pull out of buying the computers, it may hinder the other municipalities in regards to cost. Because
Right,
like I
that's
said,
true
they
too.
do it as a bulk. I would certainly want to speak with David Millard on that. Because I mean, we also do all our phones, including, they all are bulk purchasing through the county, which they are looking at switching from Bell to Rogers, which is going to think would be a little bit better. And I think South Frontenac has already changed, has it not, Michael? When we were at the last meeting?
South Frontenac did, yes.
Yeah, so then, and we're going to see some savings even with those kinds of things. But, oh yeah, I would certainly want to speak with the county on that first.
Okay, so let's keep that one in our minds.
For now.
Philip?
Sorry, I was just going to ask, because this decision is made on the warranty on the computers. So what is the length of the warranty? Is it a 3-year warranty?
Yes.
Can we extend it for 1 more year? Because I
That's
know
something to
warranties
look
have been
into.
offered for 4 years. So, I mean, the typically life of a computer, 3 or 4 years.
So you mean like purchase extra warranty? That's an idea.
Mhm.
Duncan?
Sorry, just to reply to your comments, I'm not suggesting we pull away from county IT. I think they're doing a fantastic job. My issue is just replacing things for the sake of replacing them. So what I would like to see is a fund in our budget so that if something does break mid-season or mid-budget year, we can replace it, but not just replacing things for the sake of replacing them.
I'd still like to talk to
Which
David.
now we do because of the warranty, right?
Yes. So I'm not saying we get away from them. I'm just saying we should have that conversation with the county to say,
Okay.
can
All
we
right.
do that this way?
Everybody's happy with that? We'll have a conversation.
So Madam Mayor, just update, Brendan said he believes that the warranty is 4 years, not 3, like I was thinking.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
So, and if something breaks, sorry, I need to work, so I need to fix it anyways
Yes.
throughout the year.
Okay. All right. Where do we go next? Nikki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a general question. So all these projects that are on the capital list, I want to know from the managers that they're all ready to go and you're going to do them this year. Like, I know time is an issue, but everything on your list is something that is going to happen. Because each year, like, as we said, Michael's saying it's 1.3 million that's a carryover of unfinished projects that we're carrying over. It just seems that that's what we hear all the time. So if there's a timing problem and you don't think you're going to get to it, is it something that can be pulled, or do you plan to get to everything that you have on here?
So through Madam Mayor to Councilor Kelly, just to clarify, it's 733,000 we're carrying over, but I would second that motion that if we can't get it done, please don't put it in the year.
Facilities, under facilities.
And the other was to get quotes for half tons.
I think it might be worthwhile to put all the items down that we've cut or something, so we know in each of the departments. That's why I asked Michael, so we can put it as a resolution. And we don't forget, yeah.
Okay.
So we don't forget. The council.
Kathy's working on a resolution that we can do at the end. We've also ordered lunch. It's 5 to 11. I think lunch is coming about 11:30ish. There you
A
go.
couple minutes, yeah.
Duncan.
So first of all, I think we should deal with what Councillor Gowdy had asked. She'd asked the managers whether we think we're getting all these projects done. So I think we need to answer that before I ask my question.
Okay. I think everyone plans to do them. Steve?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm pretty confident we're gonna get the projects. We don't have really a lot there, so I'm pretty sure we'll get it done.
Aren't you glad we cut some of those? And fire, same thing?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, actually our truck that's in the assembly line right now, it should be here probably 1st of March. I have to go down and do a final inspection on it. And then the equipment, I was actually talking to Councillor McGregor that I'd like to get the equipment just in case the tariffs do kick in.
Yes.
I don't know if it'll affect it or not, but everything we get is from the US on the, Canada doesn't build fire hose, unfortunately, so.
Yeah, I think our timing was good to do what we did. Might not be so good down the road, but okay. Andy, you're good with your budget?
Yep.
Okay. And who else? Kathy?
Yes. I'm just looking at as to what sections, and I think if we have a few moments when we have lunch, then between Michael and I, because of the engineering and the different things, I'm trying to put these into a resolution so that we have them, so that both that and certainly Steve can go ahead and start on these projects. The other thing I suggest is that we do a resolution as to the amounts where we have cut, and it's in a resolution so we won't forget what sections and where we have.
Okay.
Where we're at.
Nikki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just what the chief just said, can we do a resolution as well so he can get his products ordered now before March, so he can get them at if a cheaper price without tariffs? If that could happen as well, please.
Absolutely. So what I need
so
is
let's go
certainly to
over it.
speak with the chief. I need to have that plus with Michael, and we can get these
Engineering,
done.
the half ton and the fire equipment. Those were the three things.
Okay.
Was there anything else? So we got Andy's engineering, that's Steve's ability to get quotes, get prices for a half ton,
Mm-hmm.
and that the fire equipment apparatus and capital items can be approved. I think that was it.
Fire apparatus, is it?
Yes, it's
Okay.
whatever's in capital.
Okay,
Yes.
Fire. Okay.
He wants to buy the fire hose and then.
Right.
On equipment.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So those, what was the total of all those? Lost Michael.
Um,
Michael, what
Totals, I
was the
don't know.
total of all those? So I'm putting this resolution together so that council approved the engineering. And that was for the halls, was it? Was
Yes.
that under the halls? Okay, for the facilities, I'll say. So how we have in our budget, the half-ton truck for Public Works. And we've got fire apparatus and equipment in a total of. Is there any, what was the total?
That'll take me a few minutes, Kathy.
Okay, but if you can give me the total, that'd be great.
555,
Then we can put it in here and then it'll be done as a resolution. Okay.
570? 1560.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Bill.
Is the tractor not in that as well?
Oh, we didn't put the tractor. No, I haven't.
Right.
Do you want the tractor in here as well?
Sure.
Yes, okay.
Say, I can't hear you. Okay, so not the traffic.
Okay,
It's in the budget, but not going to be on this motion.
this is to
move
approve these things so that the managers can go ahead
right now,
right as soon as
Tomorrow.
this is, yes.
this afternoon.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that needs to be in the motion for the today? Susan?
Just a question about the tractor. Are you going to be purchasing that from a Canadian supplier or is it coming from the States? Because you might want to order it now.
Do you, Madam Mayor? Hopefully a Canadian supplier, yes. But yeah, I don't know about what's gonna happen with the tariffs and if we should order it now. We could order it now, or hopefully there's one on the lot sitting there.
Just seems to me that if we've agreed that we're going to purchase a tractor,
Yeah.
why wait till spring? Let's
Yep.
do it now.
Yep.
Can't hear you.
Would we not have to do an RFP on the tractor?
A quote, asking for quotes?
Yes.
Yes. But there must be a quote close to being ready?
It's like,
What's that? I think we could go through Canoe for this too. It's
Canoe?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, Madam Mayor, if I may interject to the CEO, 150,000 is the total. So just clearly spelling it out, Public Works fire half-ton truck is 60,000,
Mhm.
fire is 20,000. And the, whatever that last one is, engineering was 70,000, I believe.
Okay.
I
So
thought
it'd be
I've got
100
80.
Was it 80, at 80, we cut 70? Okay, thank you. I didn't go to
I
that
wrote
line. I
down
was
80.
confident, but I guess wrongly.
Okay.
Thank you.
I could be wrong.
Basically, yes, much like I'm sort of proposing it to, so that council approve the engineering for the facilities at 80,000. Half-ton truck for Public Works at 60 and fire apparatus and equipment at 20,000 to allow the manager to go ahead with these projects as soon as possible. How's that? No, the project's not going to happen right away, like today, or they want to be able to do these right away before the budget is actually finally approved. Yeah.
But I'm just concerned about the cost.
We said last night we wanted to start. I'm sorry. We said last night we wanted to start looking at Canadian, so they have to put it out for an RFQ anyways. So a tractor, you can find, there's a lot of Canadian dealerships that we can go through for tractors.
What if we just asked, just to approve that the RFQ be sent out as soon as possible for the tractor? That way it doesn't hold anything up. It's going to be a mishmash of everything.
Good compromise.
Okay, I'll be a minute then to finish
Duncan?
Okay, Michael, we're gonna be doing with a lot of numbers, okay? So we had a surplus last year that you're not 100% confident what it was, but it is going back into reserves.
It will go into reserves before I am done the audit. Yeah,
Excellent. Okay. And that is going to put us over $4 million, hopefully.
correct. Yes,
Okay. And this is where we get, and I don't know if you're gonna be able to get an answer. How much over $4 million?
4 million.
I'm not confident in that number. I think very small.
So as in like $100,000?
And you're asking me to commit.
Okay, sorry.
Um,
Okay. So
Like,
I guess what I'm proposing to council is rather than increase the tax levy. So assuming it's over $100,000, instead of increasing the tax levy 6.4%,
Mhm.
what I'm suggesting is we build our reserves to $4 million and then use anything extra in that surplus to bring the tax levy down. So if
Yep.
there was $100,000 in there, that would reduce our tax levy increase to around 5.5%.
correct. You're absolutely correct, through Madam Mayor, Councilor McGregor, and we can do that. And that brings up another valid point that I wanted to do as we kick the can down the road. We have the policing next year for probably 300,000. If we do not want to borrow from reserves and go below that 4 million, next year, we are either going to have to cut by 700,000 and raise the taxes 700,000 or cut projects by 1.4 million.
Yeah. So
Unless we have a bit of a surplus, and the more we cut down, the less likely that is.
So I guess to me, it doesn't matter what we go over the 4 million. If that dollars came from surplus, even if it's 300,000, I would like to take that from our tax increase. So our tax increase will be, as I said, between 5.5 or even lower.
So I have a gut feeling that if we go into the little bit that might be over, we are going to be under the 4 million, just to give council more in by a bit, but we potentially could be under the 4 million. Again, I discovered 50,000 last night. What am I going to discover tomorrow? What's sitting in my email right now? I don't know. Maybe Steve will bring an invoice and say, oh, shoot, they forgot to bill this. You know, there's another 100,000 gone. And we're like, I don't know until the chicken's hatched
Yeah.
what that's going to be.
So I guess, Madam Mayor, we have the opportunity this year, right, with the surplus to reduce the burden on taxpayers as far as the tax increase goes by just not putting a few $100,000 into reserves that was surplus from last year. And I think we should choose our target rate based on that once we start to have those numbers.
I think I suggested that a little while ago, to take 120,000 to go back in. But first of all, it's an unknown.
It is
So
an unknown.
you can say that it might be $1 million, two, you don't know. In the reserves right now is 4 million.
4.7.
So why would it be less with a surplus going in there?
So we're going to put a million, sorry, we're going to put $1 million in. So we'll be at about 5.7.
Right.
We're going to pull $1.4 million out.
So
it'll be
this budget
4.3.
already pulls out $1 million.
Yeah, there's something, because what was I thinking? If we pulled out $1.4 million, I gotta think about that for a minute, Madam Mayor. Because on the quick calculation, yeah, we should be over, but I was thinking we were going to be under. Because if we're putting $1 million in and we're pulling $1.4 million out, we should be going down 4, which would put us at 4.3. I need to think about that over lunch.
Okay.
See what I'm missing.
Anyway, I think, first of all, we're not going to finish the budget today, the final crossing the Ts and dotting the Is. But that's something that we're instructing you to look at is if we keep 4 million in the reserves, what might there be there to offset the increase this year?
Yeah, and
Is that reasonable? Susan?
Through Madam Mayor, I, as a taxpayer, I'd love to see my taxes go down and the rate go down. My only concern is that the trend is that costs increase. And if we leave that money in reserves, then we have a bit of a buffer. That's just food for thought.
But I think if we say to Michael today, we'd want this to be 5.4, and we can pull 100,000 to make it 5.4, and our surplus is 1.2 million, then we're just pulling a small amount in to offset, but we're still putting money away.
so if I may, Madam Mayor, honestly, that's all I want. Tell me what you want to be at and we'll make it work. And I'll tell you how I got there. And does that fit for everybody? So could we increase the interest revenue a little bit? Maybe 25. We could nitpick here and there, or nickel and dime here and there. We could get to that 5.4. It's just kicking the can down the road and we may have a deficit.
Okay. Is that the message we're giving to the treasurer? Try to see what you can do to get us to 5.4. Next time we meet about budget, tell us how you got to that 5.4. And part of that may be looking at bringing some of the surplus that goes into reserves back into 2025. Duncan?
Through Madam Mayor. So I'm not saying we should set a target rate. I'm just saying that's an option we can explore. And that's why we need those numbers. So how long will it be until we know what our surplus was from last year and where our reserves will be sitting?
Then we're not setting our budget until May. That's the problem.
Because we have to.
But you should have a pretty good idea in 1st of April.
The audit is the 3rd week or 2nd week in March, and they take 3 weeks or so to go. So then, yeah, we're talking mid-April. I think that's late, but
It's late, but you know what? So much is dependent
a surplus. I think $1 million is a confident number. Again, you can see, if you look at the documents, we're at 1.2 right now. Again, 50,000 is going to come off of that. I don't know what else is going to come off of that. That's the problem. What, a week? No, a week's not going to help. Give me 6. Because I don't know what the auditors are going to find, right? Like the one year they found a salary accrual that I missed for $100,000.
So I
Again,
understand.
what's the rush?
No, so my question being like, if your math is only off potentially by 1% or 5%, and we have to wait 2 months to make that happen, right? If your number can get us within 100,000 plus or minus, we can use that number, right? And not wait till April to pass the rest of the budget.
But you're putting a lot of pressure on the treasurer, who is telling you that something can be found in the audit that can throw his numbers right out the window.
So the worst that could happen is they find something and we go below the $4 million reserve mark. If council's okay with that for now, then that's sort of a chance we take and we make a decision based on my estimate, which I believe is pretty accurate, but again, there's unknown. I didn't know at 3:59 yesterday, I was going to get that email a minute later to say, oh, you're 50,000 down now. That's the concern that I have. And you're right, it is pressure and I can appreciate that, but I'm fairly confident that we haven't missed anything, but I just don't know until the chicken's hatched.
And the pressure is the fact that we want to be at a certain number in the reserves. If we didn't have that number as a drop dead number, then we know there's a surplus and we'll bring 120,000 into this budget. Would give the flexibility and make you feel a little better about saying, yes, there's going to be a surplus.
And there will be a surplus. It's just a matter of what the number is. And yes, the pressure is trying to stay above that 4 million, which I gave and I still agree with, but.
So why can't we say we'll bring 120,000 or whatever it is we need into this budget and whatever's left goes into reserves?
That's fair. And then that takes it down to about 5.5 probably.
There you
as a
go.
levy.
Philip.
So Michael made a point about policing costs. So, we're trying to wiggle the budget down. And I think we did a tremendous job this morning getting it from 9 to 6.4 in a matter of a couple of hours. I'm just really worried about what's going to happen next year when policing costs come in and we've nickeled and dimed the treasurer to death this year, knowing that we're going to get faced with it. We already know we're going to get faced with it next year.
I guess the only answer to that is that we will have a place that we can point our finger as to why we're going to the taxpayers for an additional OPP, which is provincial police. And we have no say in what those dollars are, other than stop having criminals in our community so that they don't get called. Like it is a provincial responsibility that was downloaded and it should be taken back up. And we cannot control that. We can't let our roads go.
I understand we
Because of
know, but we know it's coming is my point. Like that's.
Madam Mayor.
We know
The
it's
other
coming
thing-
and we could
so-
face a deficit at the end of this year. So I'm more comfortable with reducing it from 9 to 6.4. I'm worried what's coming down the road because we tend to defer things and it always tends to bite us.
If I may, Madam Mayor, that can is always kicked. There's never enough money, but I appreciate your comments, Councillor Irwin, and I agree with them. It's scary, and Councillor Smith, as to what's going to happen, because I can almost see an 8% levy increase directly right now from having to drop the capital projects, not pulling from reserves, and the policing cost. It's, as I've said to Madam Mayor yesterday, this is the most depressing time of the year.
Yep, I hate it.
Yeah. The other thing I just want to certainly mention that we will be looking at, I have a meeting on Friday to discuss with our OPP detachment board. There is going to be a cost that we have to put into our budget, which we haven't got that finalized yet, of all our municipalities to operate that board. And we are responsible for those shares. So that's another cost that's not within there yet. So I'll be able to mention it to Michael once I speak with the other CAOs and certainly the clerk. So we're meeting on Friday virtually to see what that kind of cost is going to be.
To respond to Councillor Smith, I agree that we foresee an increase of $300,000 approximately next year in policing costs that we didn't have to incur this year. And that's my concern with trying to keep the increase in the tax rate down, because next year we're going to have to work that in our cost. So if we raise it this year 6.4%, that means we've raised it for next year as well, and we're going to have to raise an additional 3% to keep up with OPP costs. So I do not want to set a target rate, but I don't mind using Michael's approximation. So if our target for reserves is around $4 million and Michael makes his best guess and we end up at 9.95 because Michael missed something, that's okay with me, as long as anything in excess of the $4 million is intended to bring that tax rate down.
So from what I hear then from council, you're looking at Michael to bring back the 2025 budget, which I have a resolution for to be prepared at 5.4%. Is that correct? Oh, 5.5?
Yeah, so, yes, let's go with that.
Okay, just so that we've got something here on page so that we can go from there.
Okay, Nikki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could we give Michael a range of 5.5 to 6?
Sure.
Just, I agree with everything that's being said. Yes, I'd love to give the taxpayers a break. We are going to get hit with that 300,000. We're not going to get land, like we heard in Toronto, we're not going to get the land transfer tax. Like that was straight out of the minister's mouth. Doesn't matter how much lobbying we do, those breaks we're asking for aren't coming. And if we end up at 4.3 in the reserve, then, off the top of your head, we've got 300,000 that we've already put away for that policing cost for next year. And we've already kind of planned for it. So if we want to say 5.5 to 6, we would be, I think I would hopefully like to satisfy everybody.
You'll never satisfy everybody, period. 0.5% is easy for us, but it's not so easy for somebody on a fixed income. So if we can do 5.5 and still put money in the reserves, it's like our personal bank accounts. We're going to be able to buy what we want and still put money away. And again, worst comes to worst, we're going to have to borrow money if 38 highway needs to be done because 4 million won't do it. So regardless, we're going to have to borrow money when that highway has to be redone. It's just a matter of, will it be 20 million or 24 million?
So if I can try and summarize this, and I want to make sure, so am I being directed to bring back a bylaw on the 25th at 5.5%, hoping that the surplus will bring us a little bit over the 4 million mark? Is that what?
I would suggest that we bring back a bylaw in March,
Okay.
second meeting in March, when we have a little better idea of where we're at.
Okay.
Do you want to put in March then?
The tax bills are out for the interim. The next tax bill doesn't go out until June. So we have time. If we can get a good solid number for that surplus, it can make a big difference. And what's another month or two? It's not like the tax bills will be delayed. And it gives the Treasury more time to take a look at numbers and what's where and what a surplus might be. So, Duncan.
One last question, and it's not to hash this anymore, just so I understand. So, Michael, based on your best guess right at this second, what is our reserves going to end up with after you add in the surplus? So you've said a couple different numbers. Your best guess.
Which 20?
The surplus, I believe, at the end of the year, and that's where I want to see where my mind is off by 400,000 somewhere, because our reserves are at 4.7. If we add a surplus of 1, just taking the extra off, we're going to be at 5.7. Our reserves are pulling out almost 1.5, so that should mean we're at 4.2, 4.3. But in my mind, I'm sitting there thinking if we don't take into account the extra, then we're going to be under. If something pops in, it's that unknown that's always there.
So then my general question to council, and I have my own opinion on this. Would we, at the end of this budget season, rather look at a budget increase of between 3.4 and 6.4%, or would we rather look at a reserve fund with that few extra $100,000? So if there was example 4.3, would we rather look at a budget increase of 3.4% with $4 million in reserves or a 6.4% increase with 4.3 in reserves? And that's just a question I have to council.
Well, I can tell you where I'd rather be is at 5.4 with whatever we can put in reserves, put it in reserves. Again, it's like money in the bank, but work you have to do. You can save money and your roof can leak and your house can be demolished. We've got to do some things or they're going to come back to bite us in emergencies and then we will have to use all of our reserves and borrow money. So it's do it now or do it later. All right. Suggestion to come back March 25th, which is our second meeting in March, to finalize the budget. That gives Michael some more time. So I have a couple motions. Moved by Dan Meeks, seconded by Bill Everett, that council approve the following items as outlined in the 2025 budget. Engineering for facilities, 80,000. Half-ton truck for public works, 60,000. Fire apparatus and equipment for fire services, 20,000. And to go forward with an RFQ for a tractor to allow the managers to go ahead with these projects prior to the final approval of the 2025 budget. Any discussion on that? That is what we said? Okay. All those in favor? Carried. So that certainly gets us moving on stuff that we have to do. And I think lunch is here.
Well, here, you got another one though.
Oh, got another one. Moved by Duncan and seconded by Susan, that council direct the treasurer to bring the 2025 budget back at a 5.5 to 6% increase as of March 25th, 25. So you've got a bit of a range.
Question. So I'm not against that percentage, but I don't think we're done budget. Like I'm not ready for it to come back for a final vote. That's what I'm.
It will come back for another discussion.
Perfect. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I was asking.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
0.5 between that.
And hopefully we won't discuss it for 3 hours. At that point, we should have some numbers pretty much
Concrete,
sorted out.
hopefully.
Okay, any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor? Carried.
Yes, it's already in the budget. I think was already in this.
What's that?
You're talking about the tanker.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is there any other motions we need to do?
Just the bylaw.
Okay,
The size.
there's a question.
I don't know.
Chief, is
Chief?
there a question?
Chief, do you need something approved before the next meeting?
Just need a resolution for.
To you, Madam Mayor, Councilor Duncan. No, we're just discussing the tanker that's coming, that it's that money's been allocated in this
Okay.
year, but it was already approved 3 years ago. So
Yes, it was.
we're,
Yeah.
I mean, told it's fine.
Okay, Steve,
I'm not sure, but I'd like the pavement preservation if we're gonna go ahead with that, because like, have people email me already about the crack seal and the CRF and.
Okay.
if we can
That's a good point.
Get that going. If not, then we'll have to wait till the 25th, I guess.
that we need to do. So moved by Nikki, seconded by Lynn, that council approve. How many dollars was it? $300,000 for pavement preservation project in 2025. Discussion?
Also approved the 333,
300?
300,000.
Yeah.
And that's the pavement preservation?
Yes. All those in favor? Carried unanimously.
Okay.
All right. That's it? No last minute comments? Philip?
I just wanted to ask if Kathy can send us an org chart with the positions that we've eliminated today, postponed today, just so we're clear on what.
We'll get
What's in
she
there?
and Michael to sort of go
Absolutely.
back through and
All of that stuff, yes.
figure out what we did today.
Yeah.
So we can get a summary of what we did. All right. We have a motion moved by Phil, seconded by Cindy, that bylaw 2025-05, being a bylaw, confirm the proceedings of the special council meeting held February 12th, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 12th day of February 2025. And for this meeting be adjourned until 6 p.m. on Tuesday, February the 25th, said meeting to be held at Soldiers Memorial Hall, Sharbot Lake. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, folks. Good job.
Have some lunch.
Not an easy one, but a good one.
Have some lunch.